It was just past 5:45 p.m. when a black town car rolled to a stop outside the gleaming glass doors of Lockhart Automotive Group. Rain tapped lightly on the windshield as Reginald V. Lockhart stepped out into the misty evening. The pavement glistened under the golden glow of the parking lot lights. Clad in an old navy hoodie, scuffed sneakers, and faded jeans that had survived his college years, he looked like just another tired man wandering into a dealership at closing time. What no one knew or even suspected was that he wasn't just another customer. He was the owner, not just of the car he'd arrived in, of the entire dealership. Reginald had spent the past 3 days in marathon meetings across Minneapolis. He was exhausted, hungry, and craving something no executive report could give him, a genuine, boots-on-the-ground look at how his Rockford location was running. This store had history. 5 years ago, it had been weeks away from bankruptcy when he bought it out, poured money into its revival, built an entirely new team, and turned it into one of the top-performing dealerships in the state. To Reginald, this wasn't just business, it was personal. He stepped through the automatic glass doors and into the polished showroom. The familiar scent of leather upholstery and new tires welcomed him. Under a canopy of bright LEDs sat a cherry-red 2024 Genesis G80, gleaming like a jewel. A young couple leaned near the reception desk, laughing softly, while a sales rep animatedly walked them through features and financing. At a glance, everything looked smooth. But as Reginald took a few steps deeper into the showroom, a voice rang out sharp, cold, and clipped. "Excuse me, sir," a woman called from behind the front desk, barely glancing up. "If you're here to drop off keys, service drop-off is on the side of the building." She didn't smile, didn't wait, just assumed. Reginald paused, then turned toward her. She rose from her chair, heels clacking on the tile as she squared up her stance. "This area is for clients with appointments only," she added, louder this time. 2 other employees by the service entrance glanced over. He gave the room a quick scan. No one moved. No one intervened. "I'm just here to check in," Reginald said calmly. She folded her arms. "You're not on the schedule. And if you're just looking, there's a used lot down the road. They're a little more flexible about who browses." That one hit with weight. Reginald didn't blink. His face stayed calm, unreadable, but something shifted in his eyes. She hadn't asked for his name, hadn't bothered to ask why he was there. She'd seen the hoodie, the sneakers, the face, and made her decision. He pulled out his phone and made a quick call. "Yeah, it's Reggie. I'm at Rockford. Can you swing by?" "No, not security. You." He ended the call and tucked the phone back into his pocket, then made his way over to one of the lounge chairs and sat down like he had every right to be there, because he did. The woman behind the counter frowned, visibly irritated. "Sir, I'm asking you one last time to leave. This isn't." Reginald didn't respond. His eyes drifted to the framed photo on her desk, a family portrait. 2 kids, a husband in a matching vest. "I'll wait," he said simply, leaning back in the chair, hands folded across his chest. Near the back, a younger salesman, Leon, mid-20s, black, peeked up from behind a desk. He whispered something to a coworker, who only shrugged. The air in the showroom had shifted. Conversation stalled. Laughter faded. Even the giggling of a nearby child fell silent. 15 minutes. That's all it would take. And someone was about to learn who Reginald Lockhart really was. The moment the glass door opened, the energy inside the dealership shifted. The minutes that followed dragged. Reginald remained seated, elbows resting on the armrests, legs casually crossed. He didn't fidget, didn't tap on his phone, didn't flip through any glossy brochures. He just sat, calm, watchful, grounded. Across the showroom, the floor manager, Karen, paced behind the front desk. She hadn't asked his name, and she still hadn't. But irritation was written all over her face. She checked the digital appointment log again, scrolling as if hoping his name would suddenly appear. It didn't. It never would. Frustrated, she turned to Leon, the young salesman who'd whispered earlier. "Do you know that guy?" she asked, voice low but tight. Leon looked uncertain. "I've seen him around. Maybe, might be someone from corporate. Not sure." Karen let out a scoff. "Corporate doesn't wear hoodies." Reginald heard that. He didn't react. "I'm not doing this today," she muttered to herself, and then strode directly over to him, arms crossed like a school principal confronting a truant. "Sir, I'm going to need you to wait outside until you can explain who you're here to meet." Reginald's voice stayed even. "I've already made a call. Someone will be here shortly." "That's not how we do things," she replied briskly. glancing around the room as a few curious customers tried not to stare. There's a process. You can't just sit here waiting like this. It makes people uncomfortable. That word hit like a slow-rolling thunderclap. Reginald raised an eyebrow slightly. I'm making people uncomfortable. She shifted her weight. Look, sir, I'd prefer not to involve security. He raised a hand, steady and calm. That won't be necessary. But his calm only seemed to inflame her further. I don't care who you think you are. If this is some walk-in stunt to get a deal or scare my staff, it's not going to work. We run a professional operation here. At that moment, the couple who had been admiring the Genesis sit-in froze. The woman, holding a brochure, leaned into her partner. I think that's the owner, she whispered. But she sounded uncertain. It felt too surreal to be true. Leon took a hesitant step forward. Karen, he said, cautiously, maybe we just give it a minute? She spun toward him. Leon, did I ask for backup? Go show the Mayfields the Sonata. Now. Leon hesitated, eyes flicking to Reginald, then back to her. Then, reluctantly, he turned away. Back in the chair, Reginald leaned forward, elbows on his knees, fingers loosely interlaced. He looked straight at Karen. You never asked for my name, he said, voice calm but direct. I didn't need to, she replied without missing a beat. You never asked why I came. She met his eyes, but faltered. Then, just as she looked toward the front of the dealership, a black Escalade pulled into view, understated, but unmistakably official. The kind of vehicle reserved for top-tier executives. The doors opened. Out stepped Marcus Wills, the regional vice president. Rain still clung to the shoulders of his sharp navy suit as he stepped inside, scanning the room with purpose. His eyes landed instantly on Reginald. Reggie, Marcus said, nodding with familiarity. Karen paled. Reginald stood up. The shift in the room was immediate. Phones were lowered. Employees straightened up. The couple with the brochure stepped quietly aside. Mr. Lockhart, Karen stammered, her voice cracking with realization. I didn't realize. He raised his hand again. No anger. No yelling. Just presence. Marcus, Reginald said, we need to have a company-level conversation. Right here. Marcus nodded firmly, his expression shifting into leadership mode. Everyone, he said, projecting his voice across the showroom. Pause what you're doing. 5 minutes. No calls, no customers, just listen. No one moved. No one spoke. Reginald turned to Karen. You've been here how long now? She swallowed hard. 3 weeks. And in that time, he continued, how many black customers have you redirected, dismissed, or turned away? Her mouth opened, then closed. I treat everyone equally. He turned to Leon. Leon, tell the truth. Leon looked like he'd rather disappear into the floor. But after a second, he nodded. There have been a couple complaints, he said softly. People said things. I didn't know who to talk to. Karen whirled to face him. Are you serious? Leon stepped back slightly. I didn't know, he repeated. Reginald exhaled, slowly. That's enough. The room was different now. Not just quiet, aware. Listening. Changed. Karen's voice dropped. If I'd known who you were. He looked at her squarely. That's exactly the issue. You shouldn't need to. But this wasn't over. This moment was only the beginning. The reckoning was here, and it was already past the point of being stopped. Marcus stepped forward, his voice clear and resolute, the voice of someone who had navigated both uncomfortable boardrooms and charged parking lots. Everyone, he said. Here's what's going to happen. He stood in a building that wouldn't even exist without him. Let's be clear, especially for those who are new here, or who weren't really paying attention during orientation. This dealership was hanging on by a thread 5 years ago. Foreclosure notices arrived like clockwork. People were getting laid off. Hope was nearly gone. Then he walked in. Marcus gestured toward Reginald, still standing quietly by his side, not saying a word, just present. He didn't just write a check, Marcus said, voice steady. He invested in this place, in its people, its future, its potential. Your benefits? Your training programs? That remodel you all brag about on social media? That's because of him. And still, some of you treated him like a stranger. Karen stared down at the floor now, arms crossed over her chest like a makeshift shield she couldn't lower. Her voice was barely audible. I didn't know. Reginald looked at her. No, he said plainly. You didn't care. She winced, not because he was trying to be cruel, but because he wasn't. He was just tired. I've stepped into more rooms than I can count, he said, now addressing the room. and been ignored in almost every one. I've been asked if I was lost. I've been mistaken for the delivery guy, the valet, the janitor. You'd be surprised how quickly people adjust their tone once they find out I'm the one signing paychecks. Leon looked down at his shoes. A few others shifted in place, the weight of truth pressing on their shoulders. But today, Reginald continued, this isn't just about me. It's about the next man who walks in here wearing a hoodie. About the kid with scuffed sneakers. About how often people like me get treated like we're a problem before we've even said a word. Karen lifted her head, eyes shimmering. I made a mistake. You did, Reginald said. And I could leave it there. God knows I've let plenty of things slide over the years. Swallowed disrespect with a smile because I thought that was the professional thing to do. He turned to Marcus. But not this time. Marcus nodded once, firm. Karen, he said, your probation is over. Effective immediately, your employment is terminated. HR has already been notified. Karen's face went pale. Her voice cracked. You're serious? Marcus didn't blink. Very. And this is well beyond anything we can excuse. She turned, scanning the room, silently begging for someone to come to her defense. No one did. Some looked away. Others stared at their hands. Leon quietly stepped toward the door, pushed it open, and held it for her. Karen inhaled sharply, eyes wide, lips pressed together. Then she turned and walked out, silent, leaving nothing behind but a long trail of discomfort. The moment the door closed, the air shifted again. Still, heavy. Reginald looked around the room. He could feel their eyes, the mix of confusion, guilt, discomfort. He stepped up to the front counter and leaned against it, his hands resting on the cool surface. This place, he said, was never meant to be just another spot to sell cars. It was built to be something more. A place where people like me could walk in and not feel small. A place where young black kids could see someone running the show, not just cleaning up after it. A quiet hum passed through the staff. Reginald turned to Leon. You said people complained? Leon nodded slowly. Last week, a guy came in. Said she told him the bank probably wouldn't approve him. Said she didn't want to waste his time. So he left. Reginald closed his eyes for a moment. That's not just lost money. That's another reason for someone to stop believing they even deserve a shot. Leon's voice cracked. I didn't know how to bring it up. But you did, Reginald said. That's what matters. Marcus stepped up beside him. Starting now, every location under this company is getting new training. Not some 2-hour slideshow with fake scenarios. We're bringing in real people, real dialogue. And we're going to make damn sure this never happens again. The group exhaled together, like something heavy had finally been released. Reginald still didn't smile. Not yet. He glanced back at the chair where he had been sitting quietly just a short time ago. I wasn't here to test anyone, he said. I was just tired. Wanted to check in. See how folks were doing. He paused. But you learn a lot when people think you're nobody. And now, the story wasn't staying in the room. Because as Karen's car pulled away, it was already making its way out into the world. The woman who had been holding a Genesis brochure, the one whispering earlier, had quietly recorded part of the encounter on her phone. Not to embarrass anyone. She just couldn't believe what she was witnessing. The tone shift. The calm authority. The truth of it all. The clip was just under 90 seconds. It didn't need production. It didn't need context. It didn't need editing. It needed to be seen. Inside the building, though, things were still raw. No one rushed back to their desks. Reginald hadn't finished. The service team had trickled in from the back, mechanics with grease on their sleeves, janitors with cautious eyes. Everyone had heard something. Now, they were gathered in a wide semicircle, watching the man they'd only seen in corporate newsletters and promotional videos. This isn't about her, Reginald said. Not entirely. He let that breathe. I've been where some of you are. Showing up early. Staying late, doing everything right, and still wondering if it's enough just to be seen, to be accepted, to be enough. One of the senior salesmen, a light-skinned man in a perfectly pressed shirt, let out a slow, pained breath. Reginald didn't call him out. This dealership wasn't just a business move for me. It was a promise. My uncle used to take me to dealerships when I was a kid. We couldn't afford anything, but he wanted me to feel what it was like to be around something nice. Trouble was, no one ever looked at us like we mattered. We were invisible. He paused, then added, so when I made my first million, I didn't go buy a Ferrari. I bought into a dealership, because I remembered how it felt to be on the other side of that glass. No applause followed. None was needed. The silence was louder. I know what bias looks like, he said. It's not always a slur. Sometimes it's silence. A look. A shift in tone. A suggestion to go somewhere else. That's what we saw today. Leon looked uneasy, then slowly raised his hand. Reginald nodded. I've heard her say stuff before, Leon admitted. Not just to customers. About coworkers. I wasn't sure if it was bad enough to report, but it didn't feel right. Reginald gave him a single nod. And you said it now. That matters. A young woman from the finance team stepped forward. She managed me at my last job, she said quietly. She once told me not to wear my natural hair. Said it didn't look professional. I didn't speak up. I was scared. The room stiffened. Her words dropped like weights. Reginald met her eyes. Thank you. You don't have to be afraid here. She looked down, tears brimming but not falling. Marcus unfolded a piece of paper from his pocket. I was going to send this as an email, he said, but now seems better. He handed it to Reginald. A memo drafted days earlier, focused on reviewing and transforming store-level culture. Reginald scanned it. Send it tonight, he said. Add a note. This isn't about punishment. It's about protection. He looked around once more. If anyone, ever, feels unseen, disrespected, or made to feel less than in one of my buildings, come to me. Directly. Don't wait. Don't let it fester. You've got my number. Use it. A voice from the back whispered, damn. A few chuckles followed, nervous, honest. Reginald smiled for the first time all day. Then the seriousness returned. Karen didn't lose her job because of who I am, he said. She lost it because she forgot what this place stands for. He walked over to the service desk and placed both hands firmly on the marble surface. Do better. For each other. For the people who walk through that door. For the dad who shows up in old sneakers, hoping today's the day he finally drives away in the car he's been saving for. He paused, one last time. Don't make him prove he belongs. Then he turned to Marcus. Let's finish up in the back. Marcus gave a short nod, and the two of them disappeared down the hallway. The silence they left behind wasn't still, it was charged. Because everyone in that room knew something had just shifted, and it wasn't going away quietly. The next morning, the video had already gone viral. It wasn't sleek. The angle was off. The audio had background noise. But it didn't matter. It was real. A quiet, tired black man in a hoodie, dismissed in a space he built, then revealing himself as the one in charge. It was raw, unscripted, powerful, and by 10 a.m., it had spread across every platform imaginable, from group chats to Instagram reels to national media threads. The comment sections lit up fast. Some were stunned. Others weren't surprised at all. She really told the owner to check the used lot. This man handled it better than I ever could. How many more Karens are out here treating people like this? Then came the backlash, aimed not just at the woman, but at the dealership. Reginald expected it. He wasn't new to public pressure. It didn't shake him. What mattered more were the people watching from the sidelines, the ones who'd been ignored or silenced too many times before. At headquarters in Madison, phones rang nonstop. Journalists asked for interviews. Bloggers wrote think pieces. A few old classmates even texted him. Saw you on the morning news. But Reginald didn't chase the spotlight. He didn't post a statement or sit for a dramatic feature. He sent an internal memo instead. Subject, what happened in Rockford and where we go from here. To my team. Some of you have seen the clip. Others have heard bits and pieces. Let me be clear. Yes, that was me in the showroom. Yes, that manager is no longer with us. No, this isn't about saving face. It's about what we stand for. I didn't build this company just to sell cars. I built it so people who are used to being overlooked would finally feel seen. Bias, whether loud or subtle, doesn't belong here. If something feels off, speak up. If you're treated like you don't matter, call me. You don't need to go viral to be heard. New training rolls out next week. Not a checkbox, a real conversation. Stay sharp. Reginald. He sent it to every branch, every inbox. Within hours, replies flooded back. A black receptionist in Tulsa wrote, I cried reading this. I've been holding it in for years. A Latino mechanic in Milwaukee said, thank you for saying what most leaders ignore. Even some white employees reached out, thankful to work somewhere that didn't run from discomfort. But not every message was praise. A former regional manager, who had quietly resigned last year, posted a long thread hinting that what happened in Rockford wasn't isolated. That maybe, just maybe, the problem ran deeper. Reginald read it all. No rebuttals. No denials. He picked up the phone. "Want to talk?" he asked. They met the next day. Inside the dealerships, something shifted. Not loudly, but unmistakably. People started listening more. Team meetings began with check-ins instead of just numbers. And at Rockford, Leon got promoted. Reginald offered it. Leon didn't even ask. "You kept your head down too long," Reginald said. "Time to lift it up." Leon accepted, and he asked if he could help lead the culture training. Reginald nodded. "You're exactly who should." As for Karen, no one heard much from her again. Some said she moved away. Others claimed she got legal counsel. But Reginald didn't dig for updates. He wasn't interested in punishment. He was focused on repair. As the video kept circulating, something became clearer. This wasn't just a moment. It was a mirror. And a lot of people didn't like what they saw. By the end of the week, Reginald had declined 5 interview requests: CNN, NPR, a talk show, even a podcast hosted by a retired NBA star. Everyone wanted the same narrative: the CEO who exposed racism with quiet class. But Reginald didn't think he'd done anything exceptional. He just walked into a building he helped build and expected basic respect. What felt extraordinary to him were the stories rising from the shadows. One former intern from the Cleveland branch mailed him a handwritten letter. She shared how she used to wear baggy clothes and scuffed shoes because that's all she had. A supervisor once asked if she was lost when she walked into a morning strategy meeting. She said nothing then, afraid she'd lose her shot. Watching that video, she said, reminded her that what happened was wrong, and that she should have spoken up. That hit Reginald harder than anything else. So he made a move nobody saw coming. He asked every department head to submit a list, not of resumes, but of names. People who kept the engine running. People who worked hard but didn't make noise. People who'd been overlooked because they didn't fit a mold. Over the next few weeks, those names turned into meetings. Some were over coffee. One happened in a parking lot after hours. Reginald listened more than he spoke. And what he heard wasn't just about race. It was about invisibility. A 56-year-old black janitor who knew exactly which teams wasted the most time, but no one had ever asked him. A South Asian tech who fixed more vehicles than anyone else but was told he was too quiet for leadership. A Haitian finance associate who spoke 3 languages but was told to tone it down when dealing with white clients. Reginald wrote it all down. Then he tore up the organizational chart. He called a leadership retreat in Madison. This time, no execs opened the session. The first people to speak were the ones who were usually never invited: receptionists, porters, overnight staff. They told the truth. And then, they offered ways to make it better. Back in Rockford, the change was real. Not just because Karen was gone, but because everyone had seen what silence could cost. Leon held his first team meeting. It was short, but clear. "Look," he told them, "we're not perfect. But if someone makes a customer feel small, say something. If it's me, say it to my face. No more whispers. No more waiting for corporate. We don't get better by staying quiet." Nobody clapped. They just nodded. It felt honest. 3 weeks later, Reginald came back, this time in slacks and a button-down. Not because he wanted to look like the boss. He just had dinner plans with his daughter and didn't want to change twice. When he walked in, the receptionist smiled, offered him coffee. Leon and 2 sales reps came up to shake his hand. "Boss," Leon grinned. "Welcome back." Some customers turned to look. Reginald nodded. Then, after a beat, he said, "So, how's the used lot doing?" Laughter broke out. Not mockery, relief. A shared memory. And a quiet promise to never go back. But one thing still hadn't happened. Reginald hadn't spoken publicly. And people were waiting. Exactly 1 month later, he sat in front of a camera. No studio lights. No branding. Just his office, a desk, a glass of water, and the quiet presence of a video assistant who knew to stay silent. He looked into the lens. "My name is Reginald Lockhart," he said. "And if you're watching this, you've probably seen the video." He paused, took a breath. "I wasn't trying to make a point. I wasn't setting anyone up. I was just tired. I'd flown in, my back hurt, and I wanted to check in on a place I helped build. That's it." What happened next wasn't about me. It was about how we're still conditioned to judge each other before we even speak. I've worn $3,000 suits, and I've worn sweatpants with holes in them. I've chaired board meetings, and I've been followed by store security. And here's the truth. Neither version of me deserves more dignity than the other. His voice didn't rise, but it landed. People are tired. Tired of having to prove they're worth respect. Tired of the fake smiles that come too late. Tired of small humiliations that pile up until your back isn't straight anymore. He leaned forward. The real story didn't end with that clip. That's when the work started. He listed the new training, the mentorship program, the anonymous reporting system now live in every branch. No names. No blame. This isn't about punishing someone. It's about what happens next. About whether we grow or hide. A pause. I don't expect to change the world with one video. But if this makes even one hiring manager think twice, if it helps one customer feel seen, if one kid realizes he can someday own the building he used to feel invisible in, then that's enough for me. He ended with one more truth. If you've ever felt ignored, disrespected, or dismissed, I see you. I've been you. And your worth doesn't depend on who finally notices it. It's already there. The screen faded to black. One simple line in white letters appeared. Respect shouldn't depend on how someone looks. Treat people like they matter, because they do. Back at the dealership, the video played once during a morning meeting. Some watched silently. A few wiped away tears. A young sales rep whispered, "That's the realest thing I've heard all year." And customers kept showing up, not out of sympathy or hype, but because word had spread about a place where you didn't need to dress up to be treated with decency. And that, Reginald thought, was the whole point. If you're still reading this, dignity shouldn't be earned. It should be recognized. And how you treat people when no one's watching, that says everything. If this resonated with you, stay tuned. There are more stories worth telling, and real conversations still to be had.